Alright guys, another video, working on this thing. So one thing that has been giving me, excuse that wheelie chair making disgusting noises, I'll go again. One thing that has been shitting me on this car, and a lot of you would know it's a pretty major problem with these early model Commodores, is the power steering pump seals go or something leaks and it's just a pain in the ass. So I did put a new power steering pump, a reconditioned one off eBay probably about 4 years ago or something, and I'm pretty sure it's leaking again, and I thought, you know, why not? I've actually got the old one lying around, so I thought this time, you know, I'll go on eBay, I'll buy the power steering pump seal kit. I bought this from Suzuki Super, I think, on eBay. It's about between 10 and 15 bucks. It's just all the seals and some instructions, which we'll find out how good they are. I've never done this, so you guys are along for the ride. But yeah, basically while I'm in the vicinity, I've got a new high pressure hose. I've got a 3/8 magnifying power steering or auto trans filter. It's got a filter inside it like a regular fuel or oil filter, but it's also got magnets that pick up any magnetized stuff, and the filter picks up the rest non-ferrous stuff, I guess. So I got that to put in, that goes in the return line. And then I also bought a Davies Craig, just a small basic power steering cooler. Comes with some hose, fittings, etc. But that's for another video. This video is solely focusing on rebuilding this power steering pump. So yeah, let's get started. So yeah, it should be a pretty straightforward job, so I've read and heard. So, alright, so I'm going to put some pressure on this. So the main thing, if you're using a clamp, make sure it is basically sitting true, so that axis through there is basically straight, otherwise you'll push this in on a bit of a skew width angle. So now that I've done that, taking a bit of load off there, I can twist this pin around. There, you can basically push down, get the thing started, and then you can get a screwdriver in behind like I almost had then. That was pretty straightforward. So I'll put that over there. I'll stand this up so we don't lose any bits and bobs. Alright, so then we've got our back plate. Okay, so with the back plate removed, you can see basically the O-ring here. Hopefully that's picking it up. So that is one of the common things for leaking. So I think we've got 2 big O-rings like that, so I'm guessing there's obviously another one on the other side. Yeah, we'll keep pulling this apart, I guess. So far, so good. What I always like to do when I'm disassembling stuff is kind of basically line it up in an order that it comes out. Okay, so next up, I think we've got to remove these dowel pins. So there's 1, 2. And then we've got to get this thrust plate out, which is inside there, if you can see, hopefully. There we go. So you can see in there now, that is the rotor, I think, which is missing all its vanes. Make sure you keep all these bits of stainless, which are your vanes. So I think next step, we've got to basically remove this cam or rotor or whatever it's called. It looks like it has got a snap ring of some kind in there. Since taking that thrust plate out, basically, hopefully you can see, there's a second O-ring in there which was pushing against that thrush plate. So that one feels pretty flat too, so I'd say that was partially reason behind this leaking. Alright, so next up, you have to basically remove this little pin from the rotor, or from the shaft, to get the rotor and the first thrust plate out. So what you'll probably need for this are some little jeweler's screwdrivers. I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but from what I've read and heard and just experimented with, if you kind of tap one in, I'm guessing this would either be really quick and easy or a pain in the ass. Alright, I just figured it out. Almost. Basically, you just get your little screwdriver. So, where the opening is in the little clip, which is here, come in 180 degrees out. Tap your screwdriver in, and you can kind of just lever up, hopefully. I think I've got it. Third time lucky. Yep. So that is the little ring in question. Hopefully you can see that. I'll put that there safely. And the rotor and the thrust plate pull out. But they're not the same thing, they're just literally suctioned together on a film of oil. That's actually pretty amazing. Like so. So there is our main shaft. And there's splines on there, which your rotor and thrust plate just came off, which you just saw. Okay, so now that I actually know how to do this, it's actually really, really easy so far. We've just got a seal in the front here, which is, I'd say this is also the culprit. It's very hard and brittle, so we'll be quick to F that off. And then I'll also take out this valve here where the high pressure line goes in. I'll wash out the whole unit with some degreaser, and then we can put it back together with the new seals. Alright, so it's just a matter of getting this seal out. I might actually take this to the vise and finish it off there, because that is probably, I'm pretty sure this was the original on the car. Alright, so a vise makes a huge difference. It was pretty easy to get this seal out. I basically just put the screwdriver down between it and leave it up. It's popped right out. And while I was there, I also got my inch socket. That was cool. And undid this, the high pressure inlet valve. Alright guys, so I've just gone inside. I've got my lovely doctor's gloves on. I went and got my toothbrush, and I went and got some stuff from the kitchen. Nah, not actually. But I'm just going to degrease this shit, and then we'll start putting it back together. Alright, well everything's now clean, so just going to clean up any excess degreaser, and then we'll start reassembling the pump. Alright, so before we get rebuilding, I'll show you guys the O-rings that came out. So this was the one that was furthest inside the cylinder. So this one actually snapped while I was getting it out with the screwdriver, but you can see how this one is really, really frayed. Like that, this just snaps. Like, so that just shows you what actually makes them leak. Obviously various ones. This was the very back one. This one's not so bad actually, surprisingly. I don't know whether that had been replaced sometime in its life, but that's still okay. We're going to replace it anyway. And this one was from inside this pressure valve around here. So this one's also plasticky. I don't think it was leaking. I don't think it's such a drama, but now that I've got it out, I'm just going to replace it. And yeah, the seal, as I showed you before, that was just crap. Basically, the plastic is literally hard. Like, there is no kind of elasticizing so that it'll seal on the shaft properly. So in the bin that goes. So I've got a pool of blood. There's blood in the water. Alright, so I suppose I'll just work in reverse order. So I'll put this valve back in. Yeah, I went spring first. And I also cleaned out this gauze filter as I showed you before, so that's all nice and clean now. Just chuck a dab of power steer fluid. I might even load this little chamber up with some so nothing's starting up dry. That just drops in there like so. So now we've got to find the appropriate O-ring to reseal that. So I'll fully nip that up when I put it back in the vise later on. So that is the valve done. So just before you load anything in here, just triple, double, quadruple, octuple check that there's no crap in there. Okay, so we've got to load the shaft back in now. Yet again, lube it up with some power steering oil. That can sit there ready. But before we do that, we've got to put the new seal in. So basically get it sitting in there nice and true. And then give it a tap, see if it's looking pretty right, which it is. And basically once it's seated, you don't need the socket anymore. You can kind of just go around the edges, just work around in a circular fashion until it bottoms out like that. So we'll lube up the inside of this now so the shaft can slide in there without gouging it and then making us have to do this yet again. Also dribble some down in the bushing shaft here, which is actually pretty cool. Hopefully you might be able to see it, but it's actually rifled, or it's got a spiral in it like a gun barrel, which obviously helps the oil kind of spin around and then lubricate the bearing surface. Alright, so that's back in now. So once more, I'm just going to put some more stuff on the inside here so this thrust plate isn't rubbing around on metal. I'm pretty sure it went that way. Yep. So you can tell because it's got a little boss kind of counterbore bored into it. So that goes down on top of the shaft. And that should locate on the shaft, yep. So next thing is the rotor. So this goes, you can see it's kind of half splined. Hopefully it'll pick it up. So basically, this half of the rotor from the middle out is splined and the other half is just regular drilled. So the splines went up. Once again, just a bit more ATF fluid. Make sure that thrust plate is seated on its little boss. Pop that on. Now this will probably be, could be easy, could be hard, but we'll take it as it comes. You've got to put this little snap ring back in. I'm just going to close this up a bit to make sure it seals. I honestly don't know the best method for this. I'm just going to wing it, see how it goes, and then update you guys once I've got it. I'm so freaking close. Alright, on. So basically, on the bottom thrust plate, you can probably see there's two holes. You've got to actually put your dowels in now, because down the track, you're not going to be able to locate them. So they basically go through that thrust plate, and then into a keyway in the pump body. So now that they're located, you can go ahead to basically reinstall the cam gear cover. So on mine, the side with the three dots in it goes down. You can also tell because on the top side there is actually like a blueprint from the top thrust plate basically rubbing on top of it. So that should sit down on there, like that. Magnificent. And then once again, a bit of lube on here. Now this can sit down in the right spot, hopefully. Yep, like so. So that basically just pushes down till you've got probably a few mil of dowel pin hanging out the top, and also it just goes below the two holes here from the high pressure line. And then it's just a matter of reinstalling your spring and then your top cover. Now we've just got to get our snap ring back in, hopefully. Well guys, that is officially done. Sounds good, feels tight, there's no real end play or shaft play. Yeah, all I got to do is nip this high pressure nut back up in the vise, and then we are good to go. So next up, I'm going to install this in the car. That's not really a major thing, but I'm going to hook up the oil cooler and the filter, and yeah, just put on the new high pressure line. Pretty basic stuff, but you know, there was basically nothing out there anyway that was this detailed to show you how to do it. So I thought, fuck it, why not? I'll do it because I need to, and now you guys know how to. So I hope this helps some guys out there, and stay tuned for more.